Thinking. Good morning. Welcome to Her Laundry Unfolded. I'm excited this morning to introduce Erin Paige. She's got kind of a lot of challenges. When I read your application, I thought, dang, what hasn't this girl endured already in her life? So, yeah,
it's an interesting one because you kind of go, yeah, I've kind of gone through a lot of muck.
Yeah.
And it's, it's like when you're filling out an application, you want to fill out all these positive things that are going on, but with your platform, which I think is amazing and wonderful and so important to be out in the world, that when you're filling out your application, it's a totally different vibe.
Right?
Oh yeah, that was a long time ago, but
yeah,
how far we've come, right? So
right, exactly. So I'm just going to let you jump right in and introduce yourself.
Sure.
So go for it.
Okay. Well, my name is Erin Paige. That's actually my first and middle name, and most people know me by Erin Paige because I had a jewelry business there for a while, and it was Erin Paige Designs. And people ask me what I do, and I do so many things, but I have really just made it kind of broken it down to one statement, that I do anything and everything that is heart-based or heart-centered. And that includes speaking. I have a website. My blog has a GLOW series where I interview people sharing their amazing life. It's called GLOW. It stands for Go Live an Amazing Life. So I've done that in the past, and that's very uplifting. I have written a book and journal for people. And I'm an artist, as you can see. Yes, I'm very heart-centered.
I love that. I was going to comment on that. Those are beautiful.
Thank you very much. That's something that I love to do. And in a, I hate to say normal because we're in kind of everything's normal in each increment of time. But I love to do workshops, painting workshops. I call them Art with Intention workshops for kids and adults. And it's all about tapping into that creative side. And so that's anything and everything. I also am attuned to Reiki. I absolutely love that, to be able to help people feel that good healing universal energy. And so anything and everything that's heart-centered is basically where I am now, and where I ultimately, I think most people, if they really want to tune in and become aware of some of those occurrences that were happening maybe in their younger years, that really I was heart-centered all along. I think that we all are who we are. And sometimes we, as you know, from my application and from my resume of the struggles, if you will, we all kind of go outside sometimes, but we all, I believe anyway, that we all get back to center. We all get back to who we are. And sometimes we just have to navigate off of our path for a while to realize what we want versus what we don't want. And the only way that we know what we want is to know what we don't want. So sometimes we have to go all the way out and then come all the way back in. So that's me to a T there. I'm just very happy to be here. Yeah,
that's awesome. I love that. And it's funny you said Reiki, because I had never really heard of Reiki. And when I was getting certified to be a complaint-free trainer, one of the other ladies going through the same process, she did Reiki, and I woke up one morning with a horrible migraine. And she's like, would you mind if I did some Reiki? And I'm like, what the heck is that? And I'm like, I don't know if I believe in it. She said, you don't have to. And so she did her thing, and I could not believe the almost immediate relief. I was stunned. I thought, oh, it's something you have to be really into for it to work. And she's like, nope. So very cool.
Yes, I say, I believe that we're all brought here for a reason, and there's part of me that really believes that I become kind of this conduit of God's spirit, the universe's energy, to tell me where you need work. And a lot of times people don't tell me where they're having ailments, but at the very end, I'm like, do you have problems with your left thigh? It was called there. How did you know that? So very interesting experiences for different people.
That's awesome. So let's jump into, some of the things you touched on the application. Like I see some major challenges that you've had to hurdle. So if you want to talk a bit about that and, start wherever you'd like.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up with a very nice childhood. I was involved in everything, and that, I joke that I changed from like a dance uniform to regular clothes for piano lessons to, theater costumes in the backseat of my mom's car. And I joked with her later, I'm like, you had me so busy. She goes, it wasn't me. I just facilitated it. And, so I was always involved in a lot of different things. And I felt blessed that I had parents that were very supportive of that. So when I graduated high school, I went to college, and that was a time when I discovered some freedom. In a smaller town, I was involved in everything because I had opportunities to get involved in everything. I think that that's a benefit sometimes when you live in a smaller community. And I went to this big university, and I got lost. And at 19, I was raped. It was only my second sexual experience, and the first one wasn't all that great either. So, come on, we're all adults here. So,
how traumatic, though.
Wow. It's interesting because I got really quiet after that. After that happened, I was living in a sorority house, and I went back to the sorority house, and I was really, really quiet, and probably you've gathered that I like to talk. And for me to be quiet, really, it was enough of a shift for people to notice, but I didn't say anything. But what did shift in me was I didn't seek help. I really didn't know how to navigate through that, because here I had come from, things like that don't happen to girls like me, with everything that had happened to me in my high school years. So I turned to a lot of alcohol, and I turned to a lot of people that didn't deserve to be in my life at all. But that's how I masked the pain. And with this environment that we're in right now, for me personally, I find it very interesting that we're all wearing masks. And as we talk further, I have lived a life of wearing a mask a lot of times, because there's perceptions and opinions that people formulate about you, and it may not have anything to do with where your soul and where your heart is.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly. Right. So, but, the rape experience, I finally, my parents were, they finally said, listen, if you don't tell us what's going on, then, you're on your own. And it got to that point because I was defiant, and I just wasn't who I was.
You lost. Yeah.
Lost is the best word. I got lost. And, so got the help that I needed, but ultimately it took me 10 years to heal over that.
I bet.
Experience. And fast forward 10 years, here I am, 29. I had a toddler. I was married. The marriage was not in good shape. But we were in counseling. And I remember telling the therapist, I said, oh my gosh, I just feel like a snake that shed its skin. I was raped at 19 and all these things, and, lots of crying, lots of nightmares, lots of, challenges when it comes to an intimate relationship with someone, with your husband. And
right.
unfortunately, not pointing blame anywhere, he was not in a place where he fully understood what I was going through. I asked him to seek help and he didn't. So I felt very lost and very alone through this process. And the therapist looked at me and he said, "Congratulations." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And he goes, "You have gone through the final stage of healing, and that's letting go of the unconscious."
Wow.
And I was like, "Well, that's exactly how I feel." But unfortunately, the relationship that I was in was so far gone that we got a divorce. And again, that was not in Erin's plan. That just wasn't in Erin's plan. She was, going to be the stay-at-home mom. This was what she wanted her whole life, and that's what they had agreed upon. Yeah. So I found myself on a very rocky foundation, and kind of had to navigate very similar behaviors as after the rape, just trying to find my grounding again. So that's kind of where everything started. But we could go all the way back to when I got my first boyfriend. I lost a lot of weight. There was bulimia that I had kind of tapped my toe into those waters after the rape. And it wasn't that I was gorging on 15 hamburgers. It was just I was eating normal food. And then I just, was releasing that.
You were trying to control your life, but you felt out of control. I can only imagine what that must have been like.
Yeah. And it's, absolutely. It was just about navigating and turning to not really, I think, again, we go to the mask. I'm a stuffer. So, and this is just me being as raw as possible. Even when I was little, there were expectations. There were certain ways that I was supposed to act, all of that. So if I didn't act a certain way, or if I had certain feelings that might have wanted to be, to speak my mind and to speak my voice, I would stuff that down. And it's taken me, this month, next weekend, I'll be 47 years old. And over this forced pause that we're in right now, I really feel like it's brought me to this place where I can't stuff anything down anymore.
Right.
It's unhealthy. It's not a positive place to be. But, rape, I've divorced twice. The second marriage was, I thought I was getting the life that I wanted, and it just didn't work out. It wasn't a good place for my son either.
Right.
But the positive in this, if we kind of switch to that,
talk a bit about where the shift was for you, because I think we all, no matter what you go through, my daughter also had a sexual assault, and there was almost like this transition period that we could almost physically see with her when she went through her therapy and started to do things, and it's like there's that shift.
Mm-hmm. Well, my shift really, and the blessing of the second marriage, was this, I call it my 4-year awakening. We dated for 4 years. We got married for about 8 months and got an annulment. But I spent most of my time in an unfinished basement. I had a beautiful home above me, beautiful neighborhood, fancy cars in the garage. But I spent most of my time in an unfinished basement. And that's when I started painting hearts.
Wow.
And I didn't know why. It was like, I was designing jewelry at the time, and then I started buying more canvas after canvas after canvas, and there was just these simple hearts. And that really is, I call it my 4-year awakening, because it wasn't until I got out of the marriage that I was like, oh, that's why I started painting hearts, because my heart was aching. It was aching for someone to appreciate me for who I was. And that was at 39.
Wow.
I left there. So this whole see the good has always been, see the good even in the not so good is kind of my coined phrases that I've put out there into the world.
Like you were painting what you felt like you were missing in your life. Like your body was just automatically almost like, this is it. This is it.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, absolutely. And so I really feel like I'm still this infant, I'm only 8 years old if you think about it, because at 9,
Yeah.
it took me 4 years, Wendy, to have the courage to look someone in the eye and say, I don't like who I am when I'm with you. I
Wow.
don't like the way that we are together anymore. And there's so much of me that you don't understand. And I would ask those questions of him and be like, do you ever feel this way? And he didn't get it. And that's okay. No
Right.
fault. Everyone, you have to meet people where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't at that place. But I am so grateful for the time that I had with him,
Right.
because it allowed me to finally have the courage. And I think a lot of women out there need to find that point of courage to speak their mind, to not be afraid of who they are, and to trust their gut.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge.
I tell my son, I'm an empty nester now. He just graduated from high school, and I'm like, he and I were talking about some serious stuff this last week, and I said, my best advice is your gut is always right,
Yes.
always right. And when we can tune into that, I think that's the lesson that I've learned through all of it. And well, kind of going back to the best advice someone ever gave me, and that actually was from my first marriage, was I was trying to make this relationship work. I was getting, setting up date nights. I was finding babysitters, all of that. And it just wasn't working. He was not coming, we all have to kind of come together.
Right. Come together.
We can't all just head one direction and chase
right.
after someone.
Right.
And the best word he ever said, or phrase he ever said to me, because I was like, I'm trying so hard.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you shouldn't try so hard.
Wow.
And
wow.
I now, Wendy, I still use that to this day. If I am trying too hard in anything,
Yes.
whether it's a relationship, whether it's romantic, a friendship, professional, whether it's, trying to, twist I'm a single person and I have to take care of, plumbing issues, things like that.
Yeah.
If there's resistance, the more resistance that we are experiencing, we're only going to get, like attracts like, we're only going to get more resistance.
More resistance.
So
yes.
That's part of what I have shifted into, is that if I'm trying too hard, then I really need to step back and go,
yes.
why am I trying so hard, first and foremost? And what happens if I don't? And typically, if you can walk away from something for a little bit and kind of look back in with a different perspective, you usually find your answer.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with that, because I think in many of our lives, when we're doing that, we're really trying, we're pushing. It's almost you're meeting with resistance. And if you step back, you might actually just see a different path, which with less resistance or no resistance. Like you went against your gut in a way.
Yes. And again, your gut is always right. And I tune into that all the time. And I think if people can just become aware of what their body is telling them.
Yes. So do you feel like your art, I mean, I know we're doing hearts, but obviously you're very artistic. My daughter, same thing. So it's ironic. You both went through something similar, almost at the same age that happened to her. Yeah. Her art, and she's an artist, always has been. I think that's been more therapeutic for her than the therapy, of course, helped 100%, but her art allowed her to express herself in ways that I don't think she knew she had she'll tell you she can't verbalize things sometimes, but she can do it in her art.
Mm-hmm. Well, it definitely is one avenue in which helps me get back to one. Just being quiet, meditation is huge for me. Baths. I'm big into self-care or self-love. I'm a big water person, and we don't have big bodies of water around. Midwest, at least where I am in the Kansas area, that just to run a warm bath with Epsom salt or whatever, and just kind of submerge myself, that is an opportunity for me to get back to one. I think it's, when I speak to people and I work with people on an individual basis, I'm like, okay, here's something that we forget to breathe. How many times have we been like 5-10 miles and we haven't even taken a breath?
Right.
I mean, we have to have oxygen to survive, and we have to have oxygen to move things. You know, our blood moves, the air moves through our body. And if we can imagine breathing in love and having that go kind of radiate through and then breathe out love. But, you know, there's, if you walk into a situation and you don't feel comfortable, or if you feel like you're starting to meet some of that resistance, excuse yourself and go to the restroom and stand in the stall for 30 to 60 seconds and just breathe. That helps me immensely in those, you know, little things. And walking in nature, I think grounding, and, you know, there's what they call earthing, and just standing with the earth, and that helps me a lot to get back to center, for sure.
That makes sense. And I found that this year, especially with everything that this world has gone through so far, my husband and I have spent more time in nature than I think we ever have. We make sure we're outside, you know, we're doing yard work. We bought a UTV to ride on. So we're trying to spend more time outdoors. And I just feel like with all the chaos outside, like I don't feel that anxiety like I used to. So I think,
it just, it makes, I think it helps people feel connected. And, you know, I've been brought to tears before when I've been driving and I see the sun setting and I'm thinking, wow, oh my gosh, I get to share this experience with all these people that I don't even know that are driving next to me, or they're in their houses sitting on their patios. And, you know, that it's, you know, if you recall the animated film, what was it called? It was a mouse, and it was the American Tail, I think.
Oh, okay.
Some, you know, they're out there, you know, it's like we are all sharing this. And so if we could all appreciate people for where they are, who they are, and, you know, you don't need to convince them to be somebody that they aren't. And I think that going back to some of the unsuccessful moments in my life, I really was trying to please someone else outside of myself. I was trying to take care of someone else's opinions and perceptions of me. And so much that even in social media recently, I changed my profile picture and I put a very kind note and said, you won't see me as often because I need to get back to one. And all this noise, there's a lyric in a song, and I can't think of the exact title of the song, but one of my favorite lyrics is, take the noise out of your choice. And when we take all the noise, we can be with ourselves. And, you know, if you believe in a higher power, it's like just that centeredness can bring you in, and you can listen and figure out what's working for you and what isn't working for you. And that was, those 4 years, I mean, the biggest shift for me was, and I didn't even realize it until after I had gotten out of the second marriage, that unfinished basement was the biggest blessing I had ever experienced, outside of one of my healing moments, if you will, and shifts for me after the rape, and helped push me into that final stage of healing, was being pregnant with my son. Because I was the sexiest thing ever.
I love it.
I was like, this is what my body was made to do. This is like how people, like, it helped that my son is my biggest teacher. And it happened when we shared one body, and that started then. And it really helped me appreciate what being a female is, and how empowering it is that we can create life, for sure.
That's and something you said about your unfinished basement. They tell us that our outsides match our insides. So when you think about where you were at that place, you were that unfinished basement. You had, like I said, you had this beautiful house above you, but that wasn't who you weren't there yet. You weren't in that space. So that's why you felt more comfortable in that unfinished basement. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of ironic that when you went through that transition, because we never know we're going through transition until we get out of it. Then we look back and say, wow, then you can see, I was here and now I'm here. Mm-hmm. It's pretty amazing.
If you can, I call them capsules of time. When I do keynote addresses, the title of my talk is A Tick on a Timeline. So we all share the first tick. We're all born, right? Mm-hmm. We're not getting out of it alive. So we all share a common end tick.
Right.
And it's all the little ticks in between. And it all depends on if you want to continue with your pen or your Sharpie with the one tick, if you want to stay in your pity party and keep circling over that tick of your timeline, then you'll never move forward. So I call them capsules of time. So that capsule of time has been capped off. Now, doesn't mean that you can't open it up.
Right. Revisit it
a little bit, mm-hmm. but you cannot, we need you. Each person has their unique gifts and their unique, this beautiful soul within them mm-hmm. that we need you. Don't spend too much time at the pity party. Everyone has the right to their pity party. It's how long you stay at the party that matters. It's what I say. So yes, that capsule of time in an unfinished basement, making jewelry and then transitioning and painting hearts.
Yeah.
Profound. It's a profound capsule of time for me. And, to go back and reflect on it and go, wow, I've come far.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of just beginning. And I don't know if anybody else, and you hear people talk about there's the troublesome or the something 30s and then, these fabulous 40s. And it's amazing because all that voice, that's something you finally get to the point where, you know what, I can't stuff it anymore. I need to be who I am. And either you're going to be there or you're not. And to trust and have the courage and to be brave to stand in that space is huge. And I'm still navigating through that. And, we all have patterns. I have patterns where I fall back into it a little bit. And then I'm like, wait a minute. That didn't hear about the 20 times before. Right. I want to do that again. So
but being able to recognize them, that's a big thing too, is being able to say, oh, okay. Oh yeah, I've been here before. I need to move past this now.
Yes. I'm very protective of who I spend my time with these days and where I spend my time. That's the reason why you may not see me on social media because I've deactivated. Because I just need, it's interesting. I quit social media in 2018, literally deleted. And it was awesome. Oh my gosh. It was
that's a brave thing to do. I mean, people, you don't think it, but our phones are in our hands. I'm guilty of it.
Mm-hmm. It's, and it can really drain you. So I was to the point where, there's always a straw that breaks the camel's back, right, as the phrase goes. Mm-hmm. But I finally, they make it very difficult, but, and they give you a 14-day grace period. But that was late January, February of 2018. And it was June. I was like, man, why am I so happy? And why is life working out so well for me? And why are my relationships so good?
Mm-hmm.
That was one thing that I talked to my son about this week. And he's like, Mom, because I was trying to build a business. Yeah. And, there's kind of this, this necessary evil when it comes to social media to advertise and think that you need it. And he said, Mom, you are on your phone all the time. You are on the computer. I grew up with your face in a laptop. Mm-hmm. And of course, as a mother, you it breaks your heart. Yeah. However, he's learning what he wants and what he doesn't want through some of my actions.
Mm.
He's like, well, Mom, I don't want to be like you. And I said, you know what? Good. I'm glad, because I wouldn't want you to be like me either in certain areas. And so, there's a gift in everything, even in the not so good. It just, you have to step out of the box a little bit. I say step out of the television box.
Yep.
And look back in at the same scenario, but take yourself out of it. And I guarantee you'll see it differently.
Yeah. And I've taken a few breaks myself through this year, just like, okay, I have to step back, from this platform, because it's bringing me down where I'm carrying it outside of the social media. Like, I need a break. I need to mentally just, like you said, recenter, get back to one. So that's been, like you said, it's something we have to be doing right now. So I love that you said that you're basically 8 years old. So let's talk about that 8 years. So, what has happened in that 8 years as you've grown and become this, successful 8-year-old?
Yeah. Oh, sure. Well, the first couple years, just like what, you have to try everything. I had decided that I wanted to start a jewelry business. I wanted to connect with, and I often say that I had just this handful of seeds, and I just went, and, some seeds, as we all know, even in the package of seeds that we buy from the store, when we put it in the ground, some seeds grow and some seeds don't.
Right.
And so the certain seeds started to grow from that. Mm-hmm. With the jewelry, I was in the fashion shows and collaborated with some really amazing people. Had a thriving business in all the magazines, and I was on television a few times and all of that. It was very cool. And I am grateful for that time because I met a lot of people. Mm-hmm. But the shift in that, this is a good one, is that I was creating these beautiful pieces, and the shift into where I am now happened through that jewelry business, because people were wearing my jewelry and they were like, I don't know what it is about your jewelry, but I feel better when I wear it.
Oh.
And I would design, original pieces for these women to go to galas and all of that. And they would text me the next day and they're like, don't know what it is about your jewelry, but this woman stared at me all night. And I think this particular lady, she had one of my small pieces.
Okay.
She kept staring at me, and I was like, what is she doing? And it was a big room of 500 people. And she finally walked over and she goes, I have been staring at your necklace all night. There's just something there. And through designing, I realized that it wasn't about my jewelry at all.
Okay.
It was about what I was putting into it. It was about the voice. My mom told me, I sang when I was in high school, and I still love to sing, and that's on my bucket list, maybe when I'm 9. I turned 9.
Love it.
9 in a week. And I'm starting, in fact, on my blog, I did my own blow, and I sang on video, and I haven't done that for a long time. I was so nervous.
Oh, wow.
I did it anyway. I was like, if I don't do it, my friends why don't you just do a quick video? I mean, nobody cares. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. Nobody cares. So anyway, but I wasn't singing anymore. And she said, her words, she said, Erin, God gives people certain gifts, and he's giving you the gift of voice, and you haven't, or I hope that you get back to it. And this was when I was in my early 20s.
Okay.
And when I was in my early stages, in my early 40s, I realized that my voice wasn't singing. I always thought it was singing. It was really about the voice that my jewelry was having and affecting other people. I had one woman that ordered the exact same. I did these bars with, I called them, my love bars. And it was just this little bar of copper on a chain. And I stamped the word love. Well, a lady reached out to me and she said, I want one with hope on it. I want one with this and that, because Erin, when I put on your jewelry, I feel the word. And
Wow.
so that shifted me into, because more people wanted me to speak. More people were like, I want to be around your positivity. I don't know what let's, can you do a painting workshop for this, nonprofit group or what? And that's where the ball started rolling. And that's why I don't do jewelry anymore, is because I realized that it was the gift that got me to this place. It allowed
Yes.
me that space to find the voice. And, not to say that I won't come back to the jewelry, but I'm very grateful for that early phase, because there was a huge shift.
Right. And you found your voice through it, and you found that people were, coming for the heart behind it, the love that you put into it. That's what they felt and saw. It's amazing. People might say, well, how can you see that? You can feel that. You can feel people's energies around you. I can tell if I'm around somebody really negative, or if I'm around somebody who just is glowing with, the heart-centered authenticity about them. You just feel that with people.
Mm-hmm. And if you can breathe into that space before you go into, a meeting, or if you have to have a discussion with someone, if you can breathe into that space and just breathe in through the heart, there's actual studies that the heart actually communicates more often with the brain.
Okay.
The brain does with the heart, and that the vibrations of the heart actually go out to 8 feet.
Oh, wow.
But an interviewer asked the scientist and said, well, how do you know it's 8 feet? He goes, because we believe that it's infinite, but our instruments can only measure up to 8 feet.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah. Isn't that, I was like, well,
Fascinating.
and that goes into what you were talking about. When you go into a room, you can tell whether somebody's in a negative space or in a positive space, because we're beings that are radiating outward. And if we can be in the right space, we can tune into that, and we can make our own adjustments. Whether it's, I've left a room before, I'm like,
Right.
I cannot be here, or, come into that space more loving. So,
Right.
yeah.
And being a speaker then as well. And I do speaking too. And I love that part of conferences when you're there, because you get that feedback, that energetic feedback when you're on stage. So, doing the virtual has been a little bit more challenging, but there's times when you can still kind of feel that energy, even though you're talking to a screen. And I was so skeptical of it before I did the first one. And then I got off of that. I'm like, wow, I still feel charged up like I do, like when I'm on a stage. Have you had that experience?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, you can tell, you can tell one side of the room is in a different space than the other. And even the center of the room is totally different. And it's like, okay, I don't know how often I want to walk on that side of the stage. I don't know, the claws might come out, but,
Right.
and I love the word grace. And all of these years, these young 8 to 9 years, is a lot of grace. Each day you have an opportunity to wake up and do something different than you did yesterday. And if you messed up, it's okay. Give yourself grace and step out into a brand new day with, a new attitude. And again, don't spend time in your pity party. So it's when we were talking about the 2 different sides of the room, it's like, okay, just going to breathe a lot of love that way, just kind of push the vibrations this way. People will feel that. I mean, you can feel, I bet you felt a shift in the room when you have, addressed it that way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. You totally feel that. It makes such a difference. And it's an odd thing. And I never knew that before I got into speaking, but I had talked to other speakers who told me that. I'm like, okay, I'll see. Get up on stage and you really can feel it. It's, someone can be smiling at you, but you're feeling like this, like resistance almost. Like, okay, I need to send a little more energy that way, and you feel the shift.
One of the blessings that my Reiki clients give to me is that shift. we're just, we put so much pressure on ourselves, and we live in an environment where we have to, keep up, or we think that we have to keep up. And I have had souls walk through my door, and I can just feel how overwhelmed they are, how ungrounded they are. Mm-hmm. And to see that shift when they're on, my massage table or my Reiki table, it's such a blessing. And you go, they're like, what did you do to me? I go, I didn't do anything. I actually didn't do anything. I just navigated so you could allow that to come through. And so, whether you're speaking or you're working one-on-one with someone, to see someone shift, you're living on purpose when that happens. And and that's a true blessing for me to experience.
Right. And I think too, which is interesting, because I mean, as far as the grace part goes, which is great, is sometimes as women we think, I started this, I have to see this through, and that's where that resistance comes through. So allowing ourselves grace to say, this isn't working for me anymore, and to say it's okay to move on to something else. I really struggled with that for a while. I was into like 20 different things, and I finally learned to say, you know what? This isn't working anymore. I have to allow myself grace to say, it's okay that I'm not going to see this all the way through. I'm going to focus my energy on something else. And I found so much more success when I do that, when I'm more authentic to who I am and what I'm putting into it.
Yes, true authenticity. And it's where, the half glass, the glass is half full or the glass is half empty. Regardless, it's still the same level, right? So
yes,
a lot of times I'm just like you. I'm a firstborn perfectionist, and by golly, I'm going to see something through. I mean, my mom always said we leave things better than we found them, and we always go the extra mile. And most times that's very applicable. You can apply that.
Right.
There are many times when you can keep trying, and you overflow the glass, and there's no room for anything else. And it's a tough spot to go. Yeah, I'm gonna have to dump the glass. Sorry, I don't need you in my life anymore. I'm going to dump you out because I need to make space for, what speaks to me. And that's, mentioned success. That if you can take time to manage that glass and how you're filling it, and going through, and, when the oil and the water separates, if you can dump what's not mixing properly, then you make room for so many other things to come in.
Yes.
Resistance. You're not fighting against yourself anymore. You're not fighting against, and it actually releases everyone in the scenario.
Right.
It might be that, well, I can't believe that, you don't want to be, let's just use friendship. I can't believe you don't want to be friends with me anymore. Well, you're toxic and I don't want to be around you anymore. So I'm going to dump you out.
Yep.
You've released them as well. And it's a gift to them, and it's a gift to you.
That's great. Boundaries are fantastic. And I love that, that part of that scenario, especially, what you're allowing in your glass just really makes up a big difference for you.
Yeah.
So where are you at now with your business? Like, what have you landed on right now?
Well, I have landed in a space where I have taken back a lot of my power. And what that means is boundaries. You mentioned boundaries. Those are very much in play. And remaining authentic and building the business with the Reiki. There's some other things that I'm doing as well to help people through microcurrents and things like that. That's a whole nother, topic of discussion. But making sure that the business stays in alignment with who I authentically came here to be. That's where I am. Making sure that when I speak to people that I come into a very authentic place. And it's only growing from there. And the artwork, making sure that I'm in alignment with who I am when I create, because just like with my jewelry, the artwork's exactly the same. It's exactly the same with, talks that I give or workshops that I give. What I put into it is going to be felt by everyone else, and it's like the ripple effect. And
it really is.
Yes. So where I am right now with my business is I have stepped into that full authentic space and have the boundaries in place that are necessary to make sure that authenticity does not waver.
That is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most women who I have on here, they kind of say it in their own way about becoming authentic, following your heart, giving yourself grace. It might be iterated a little bit differently, but I love that we all find that place, and that's kind of where that success lives. We have to get through those challenges and learn. Like you said, you have to figure out what you don't want in order to figure out what you do want in your life. Exactly. What you're going to put into that glass that's half full or half empty.
Yes. I'm a firm believer that at the core, the essence of who we are, while it's unique, we all share some commonality when it comes to that essence, that we really just want the best thing for ourselves and for those that we work with, right?
Yes.
And if we can come to that space in authentic, come at it from the heart space, then I think that that's felt by others, and people are attracted to be with you on, this video podcast. And people, you attract the right people when you come back to that true essence of who you are, and again, as I said, you don't waver from that.
Right. No, that's awesome. So I have up on the screen to connect with Erin. You can visit her website, erinpaige.com. So if you want to get in touch with Erin, learn more about what she does, please visit erinpaige.com. So I'm so thankful you were on with me today. I think everyone's going to learn a lot from your interview, and hopefully they can connect you.
Well, hopefully, that there's someone out there that maybe it resonates with, and if they want to reach out to me to talk further about anything that I talked about, I am happy to do that. And thank you for putting so much goodness in the world, Wendy. It's really a pleasure to be with you today.
Thank you so much. All right, everyone. Well, we'll see you next week. Same place, same time. Thank you again, Erin.
Bye, everyone.
Have a great day, everyone.